Hello, and welcome to the Yearbooking Report podcast, an independent resource for yearbook advisors and staffs across America and beyond. I'm Scott Giese, and thanks again for tuning in. For this episode, we're going to get right to it, because recently we had a long and terrific conversation with Jim Jordan. Jim is a former veteran yearbook advisor who has been a yearbook and workshop expert for Walsworth Yearbooks for almost 10 years now. You want some ideas and inspiration? Jim is your guy. Now, if you're a regular listener or viewer to the Yearbooking Report, you know that we usually hone in on one particular subject with our guests. But for this episode with Jim, he and I go back and forth on several top subjects in yearbooking right now, from advisor stresses to why is design so difficult for many, to the perils of AI, and some other subjects. Jim did not disappoint, as he shares some great stories, advice, and information. So let's get to it. Let's meet Jim. First off, let's welcome Jim Jordan to the Yearbooking Report podcast. Jim, first off, appreciate the time today. Thanks for joining me.
So glad to be here. This is awesome. As a little bit of a podcaster myself, it's always great to be on somebody else's.
All right. And yes, Jim and I have been, well, let's just say Jim and I have been around the block enough times that we need a new set of tires. How about that? All right.
We could say that. We could say
we've
it that
been
way.
doing, you and I think you're longer than me, but you and I have been doing this for a long time.
Long time.
Now, for regular folks that check out our podcast, you know that usually I have one specific topic that we kind of hone in on we're not doing that this time. All right, because Jim has been doing this for a very long time and still is. And so, Jim, I've shared this with you. We're going to hit several topics. I'm going to toss your way.
I'm ready.
We'll sort of have some back and forth conversation there on topics that I think are kind of hot right now in the yearbook world. All right.
Yep.
So let's have some fun. First off, let's start from scratch.
Okay.
For folks that don't know you,
yep,
you would kind of sort of introduce yourself. Where are you from? What's your background? You are with Walsworth Yearbooks. So
that's correct.
Folks that maybe somehow aren't familiar with Walsworth. So tell us something about yourself, and then you get the free pitch for Walsworth. All right.
Okay, you got it. You got it. Well, I started as an English teacher in January of 1978, which is kind of crazy. And I was at one school, taught English, was going to bring literature to the masses and all that good stuff. And then out of nowhere, because of some political things going on in my district, I got involuntary transferred from Miraloma High School to Del Campo High School. And that happened in the fall of 1980. And that was rough, man, to be pulled out of the place where I'd student taught and I had relationships. And so down the road, I was looking at finding a way to make myself indispensable at my new school, Del Campo. And guess what? I kind of looked around on the landscape and I understood that nobody really wanted to do yearbook. And at that time, I fancied myself a pretty good writing teacher. I wanted to be at one point in my life an architect. So there was some design in my background. And then I always, loved taking photos. So I had all those things. And I noticed that Del Campo had a pretty good culture for yearbook. It was something that brought in the very best kids. Usually it was the English department chair that did it. And then it'd kind of fall down for a couple of years. So when it came open, I really jumped at the chance, which is super odd for most people and how they get the yearbook job. But I jumped in, and that was in the fall of 1982. My first editors, I went to camp with them in the summer of 1982, and those dear people are now 61, 62 years old. So yes, I've been doing this a long time. So I started pre-computer, which was crazy. One of the things that really changed my yearbook life was my school had been going to a camp called Yearbook Newspaper by the Bay, run by a couple of gentlemen in Northern California here. But they had the vision of bringing out great teachers to this camp. And very early on in those years, I met H.L. Hall and Bruce Watterson. And it goes back to the second year of the camp. I opened up a book, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but you're at a yearbook camp and you opened up a yearbook and you go, "Whoa, I can't believe what they did here." And this was my second camp. Bruce Watterson was the advisor. Bruce Watterson, who hopefully you all know from Old Main High School. And it just blew my mind. Subsequently, I got to meet Bruce. And as I said, H.L. Hall was at the camp. And H.L. Hall and Bruce Watterson really became my mentors early in my career. So from the get-go, I wanted to do a journalistic yearbook. I wanted to tell stories. I wanted it to have great photography. And I wanted the design to be amazing. And so those were the first basically 4 years. And then at that camp, same time, you got Bruce and H.L. Hall talking about there are these things called Macs, Macintosh computers. And Macintosh, centered right there in the Bay Area. And this camp was at Stanford. And Bruce went to a seminar, I think it was in 1984, 1985, and he launched on his journey and along with H.L. Hall with the first year of yearbooks on personal computers, 1984, 85. And that got me going and thinking, oh my goodness, can I do this? I'd started doing my grades on computers, big floppy disks, so you knew it was going that way. And I just jumped in. We bought our first set of Macs in those days. This was the spring of 1986, so I consider myself year two in the Mac world of personal computers and journalism. We got two MacBook, not two MacBooks, two Macintosh Plus computers. We got Microsoft Word. We got Aldus PageMaker 1.1, and the big revolution was the Apple Writer 2 or Laser Writer 2 printer, which had PostScript, which means you could print things at any size and have the resolution stay the same. So we got started that first year, 86, 87. And in those days, it was all paste up. You pasted up things that came out of the LaserWriter printer. There was no pagination yet. That was still to come. And it was at that time when I was deciding about what company I thought would best support me with starting on this desktop publishing journey. I got together with my people at Walsworth. I've always been with Walsworth, and I was a yearbook advisor for 35 years. And I got together with the Walsworth people and I said, hey, let's go and check out Bruce Watterson's classroom. And they flew me to North Little Rock, Arkansas. I still remember this and very proud of this. We sat at Bruce Watterson's back table. The head of the plant, who was Bill Kalpis at that time, and Joe Cupp, one of the vice presidents at Walsworth, and we really visioned what the world of desktop publishing was going to do to the yearbook world. And boy, were we right. And right from the get-go, and this is why I have always loved Walsworth, is they embraced desktop publishing from the get-go. And they've been very, very supportive of me all along. I was an advisor with them for 35 years, and then they hired me to be a special consultant. And I'm still excited about working with schools, helping them produce great yearbooks. So I always make this statement. I was born in 1955. Steve Jobs was born in 1955. Bill Gates was born in 1955. So they created the hardware and software, and I helped kids learn how to use it in those early days of my career.
So you're a bazillionaire like Gates and Jobs?
I'm a bazillionaire. You know what? This is the crazy thing. I can remember going to two seminars in those early 2 years of using personal computers. If I only would have put $10,000 into Apple stock, I would be rich today, but I missed it. And I also made the other time when Apple was kind of going downhill before they got hooked back up with Pixar. Then I could have done it. I missed it over and over again. We all could have been rich. I should have known. I should have known.
I tell you what, quick story, Jim. From before my yearbook time, which I'm only 25 years, I feel like a youngster now. Holy
Oh
smoke.
yeah.
I've been a media person my entire career. And I used to do a radio show where I live in central Pennsylvania.
Undoubted. I can hear that radio voice.
Thank you very much. And my co-host was a fellow who was a little older than me. Well, I left that job and went to work in the yearbook biz. My friend kept going for a few years. He got fired at one point, which happens a lot in the radio business. All
Oh
right.
yeah.
And for a period of a year, he became a stockbroker. Now, he was a terrible stockbroker. A friend took pity on him and hired him as a stockbroker. The one good thing he did, he bought Apple stock. It would have been right around 2000.
Yeah, that was it.
He is now retired comfortably in
Yeah.
Florida.
Oh yeah.
I am not.
I know. Yeah.
I am not.
Oh, what could have been.
I tell you what, while I was listening to you, Jim, I was quietly kind of chuckling in the background. It's interesting over your entire career or experience how some things have really changed.
Oh yeah.
For any youngsters kind of watching or listening here, do a web search for Aldous PageMaker and see what it tells
Oh
you.
yeah.
Okay, boy, we're going back
Yeah.
now. Holy mackerel.
Aldous PageMaker 1.1. I still have the box.
Yeah, I never worked with one, but I was a little further down the
Oh
line
yeah. It was
that
great.
way.
It was a great program.
But it's interesting over your long tenure there, Jim. One thing that hasn't changed is there's never a line out the door to be yearbook advisor.
No, there's not.
Why is
No.
that? I mean, seriously, that's a serious question.
No.
Why is
No,
that?
it's a great question. Well, it's because it's so much hard work, at least at first, to really learn how it all works. And you really have to take it on, I think, from an educational standpoint of what does the yearbook experience give to students? And what relationships do you create with students along the way of putting together a yearbook? I talk about I talk about my old editors. I probably know at least one or two editors from every one of my 35 years. And that's really one of the things that kept me going is the relationships that I developed year after year after year, and the level of connection I was able to make with students that really fed my professional soul, as well as all of the main parts of it. You have to have some love of writing. You should have some kind of curiosity about design, and then photography. Everybody loves taking photos now, and it just creates a volume that's going to be permanent and last far longer than any shot you have on a social media platform or whatever. So you kind of have to look at it, step back and look at it from the large, bigger perspective. But you can't get around it. There are deadlines, there are hard work, and you really have to encourage reluctant kids that this is an important thing to do. Now, once you do this for a while, the real key is developing a culture in your yearbook classroom, a culture at your school that values the kind of yearbook that we want to produce and the kind of and draws the kind of kid in that are yearbook kids. And that's one of the challenges, getting yearbook kids in the room before they know they're yearbook kids. Once that book comes out, and what a time that is when you have the ritual of opening that first box. We had a giant pair of scissors from like the 30s or whatever, and we would run it down that box, cutting the tape. We would open it up. You'd get that smell of soy ink, and we would open up the book as editors and go through it page by page. That's something you can't tell a kid what it's like when they're signing up the year before they get started. So it's a process. You have to develop a culture. That's really the most important thing.
The smell of the ink.
Oh,
Let's hope that never goes away.
let's hope that never goes away. Nope.
Now, you had a key word early on, and it's the word indispensable.
Yes. Yep.
Yearbook advice, because we just said they're not lined up out the door.
No, they're not.
Yearbook advisors are you want an indispensable job. They will never get rid of you. Boom. Now,
That's
Jim, I
right.
have to believe you do workshops like around the country and all that
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of thing. You must have conversations with advisors who are
All the
thinking,
time.
"Well, I think I want to quit. I'm burned out. I just don't feel it." Let's say somebody's watching, listening to this right now. They're thinking that right now.
Well, and
Had a
it's
chance.
February. It's February, March now, and I think I wanted to quit every February or March. It's tough because you can't run, you can't hide from your deadlines because you want that book to come out, but you just have to talk to those advisors and talk them through the long game of it's going to be worth it. Once you see that book, it's going to be worth it as you develop relationships with these kids. And it's going to be worth it as you build a program that really gives kids some amazing skills, both hard skills and soft skills that they're going to take with them the rest of their lives. And so that's really an important thing for me is that you've got to look at being on yearbook as or and teaching yearbook as being really part of an educational value that really they get nowhere else. And as a long-term teacher, never went into administration. I really think of myself always as a career teacher. What kids get being in that yearbook classroom is found nowhere else. And so if you love teaching, you love kids, and you're willing to, work hard, dig in, you are going to love being in yearbook. Now, there are some things you have to look out for. You've got to have administrative support. Your administrator, you have to have administrators that value what you're doing. And that's probably the big thing I'm coming up against with people more and more now is you have administrators that don't see it from that strong pedagogical foundation. They see it from just got to get it out, we've got to have it, and they don't support you. You really have to have administrators that are there for you and see what you're doing and see what your kids are getting out of the experience. And so to that end, you've got to promote yourself all the time. And before you take the job, go in there and say, this is what I want to give to this program. This is what you're going to give out of it, but I got to have your support. I've got to have some financial support for some computers and for some photography stuff. But I've got to know that you're getting what is going on in that classroom, that you're coming down, you're saying hi, you're valuing my kids just as much as you do the broadcast program, the football program, the arts. It's equal. It's equal. You've got to be that kind of administrator. And frankly, if I didn't have supportive administration, it wouldn't have been the experience it was for me. And I literally, owe so much of my personal career and the success I've had to the kind of kids and support that I've had in the yearbook classroom.
Jim, that's great advice. Absolutely spot on and indispensable. Yes. If you want to be indispensable in your school, here's something to
Absolutely. Yep. 100%. I never got moved again. They didn't want to get rid of me.
We'll return with more from National Yearbook expert Jim Jordan in just a moment. We asked him about current challenges in the yearbook world and why is good page design so difficult anyway? Ideas and advice in just a moment. Now, depending on when you're listening to this, your yearbook distribution day is coming up. For TYR newsletter subscribers, hopefully you've already watched our lesson on the website on the importance of a distribution event. Not just a book handout, but a real party to celebrate the hard work of you and your staff this year. Yes, even at the elementary school level, Make this a day that people look forward to every year. Go to our website, yearbookingreport.com, and look for the lessons section. And while you're there, see an example of a great yearbook distribution event in our special video section. If you're not a TYR subscriber, on our website, click on the newsletter tab. We have our favorite paperboy there, and you can sign up. It's free. Separate versions each week of the school year for high school, college, and for middle school, elementary. Once again, all of that on yearbookingreport.com. Now, what's happening in the yearbook world nationally today? We continue our chat with Jim Jordan here on the Yearbooking Report.
All right, now let's segue into our topics. And actually,
Yeah.
This first topic maybe kind of fits with sort of what
Yep.
we've just been
Yep.
talking about is from your experience, either pro or previous to now, and the things that you do with your company and so on, what are the biggest challenges in yearbooking right now? And I use the term yearbooking.
Yeah.
'Cause
Oh,
it's
yeah.
about
Absolutely. Yeah.
telling stories and the whole experience
Absolutely.
there. But again, from my perspective, from my prior time in the field, a lot of educators feel beat down right
Oh,
now. They're
absolutely.
burned out, not just
That's right.
yearbook advisors, just
No, everybody. No
Yeah.
doubt about it. Yeah.
but some of that sort of bleeds into yearbooking. And maybe it's at the school level, maybe it's at the yearbook company level. There are some
Yeah.
struggles going on right now.
Yep.
Or maybe
Yep.
it's just sort of the national state of things. What would you say? What are the biggest challenges in yearbooking right now?
Yeah, the biggest challenge is motivation of your students, of your staff. And, this is one of those things where you have to look back on the stuff that happened to kids with COVID. And in those 2 or 3 years, kids are struggling. Kids are under stress. And so you really have to be forgiving and caring and nurturing of them in that whole, culture that we're in now of kids having a rough go. And so you have to build things up slowly. Um, and it really your focus kind of has to start with how can I take this group of kids and make them better human beings, designers, writers, photographers, when they leave than they were when they stepped into the room. So I think you have to have a kid focus in a way. In the old days, and this is one of my big regrets of my early years, I was more product focused than process focused. I cared more about the perfect book than I did creating the perfect yearbook student when they left my room. I think I left too many kids behind in the process. And so as you're building that culture, it's going to take a little time to get your kids up to speed, to get them loving the yearbook experience. And so it may take you a few years. And then the other thing is what I would say to advisors, new advisors, self-care comes first. So what are you doing to take care of yourself? If the book isn't quite as good the first couple of years as you want it to be, as long as you're taking care of yourself, that's super, super important. So hang in there and take it one step at a time and build your program. You want to look at it as a long-term thing, playing the long game.
All right, a yearbook company question. All right, you're with
Yeah,
Walsworth for a
sure.
very long time.
Yep. Yep.
I prior was with Jostens for 25 years.
Yeah, sure.
Uh,
Yep.
there are way more book producers now than there were in the past. In other words, companies
Yep.
making books
Yep.
and
Yep.
digital stuff and all this sort
Yep.
of thing.
Yep.
From whatever you're willing to share, okay,
Yeah.
from the yearbook
Yeah.
company perspective, what are the
Yeah.
challenges right now?
Yeah, the challenges right now are coming up with materials. Now, I do a lot of workshops, both spring, fall, summer, but my primary job is to work with marketing to help create materials that are going to support advisors. The reason why I do the job that I do now is I'm very passionate about giving advisors support that they need to be successful. And so the materials, the help, the videos, the podcasts, the books, our possibilities book, 11, volume 11, which is a teaching tool, not just a show me book, not just a coffee table book, but it's a book that's to help advisors and staffs visualize what a great yearbook can be. Um, so I think it's our job more than some of the other kind of quick turnaround sort of yearbook companies. It's our job to give the best kind of support materials, lesson plans, models, PowerPoints, videos that can make the advisor's life easier. We've become very passionate in the last few years about creating hands-on activities that you can take in your classroom. We've done it. We used to, in the old days, we did a lot of show and not really tell. And we did a lot of show and not giving them resources to use in the classroom. So we're trying to equip new advisors with great materials that makes their job as easy as it possibly can be and kind of help serve as something to light their fire to get them to want to create some of that stuff on their own. But the materials that we're coming up with are better than they've ever been in my entire career. And I'm really proud to be a part of that, because again, I'm passionate about all the staffs and advisors out there. I want you to do it for 4 or 5 years. You as a rep know if you're training 20, 30 new reps every year, that's a rough job. But if you get them to catch the fire, the spark of what it means to be on Yearbook and make a great book, they'll stay around.
I agree. And I don't know, the old stat, I don't know if it's still true that not the life expectancy, but the length of an average yearbook advisor career is still just 3 years.
Yeah, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's getting harder because, just the way the world is, I'm a baby boomer and baby boomers don't quit anything, so I mean I was gonna go my whole distance and I'm, kind of proud of the fact that I did. You in California, you could retire at 61 and a half, and I made it and did 35 yearbooks. And, life is great. But that's harder to sell. The ideological joy of teaching in a lot of places, the life of that's been sucked out of it. And so you have to find your own joy in your building a lot of times. And that's again why stuff like this and conventions and workshops, you find your tribe of people who get it and you can't wait to see them again. We got CSPA coming up and we've got JEA in Minneapolis coming up. I can't wait to see all my friends who I've been doing this with, some of them for almost 40 years now. And they're still around and we've marched the march together and I love it. So that's another thing for new advisors is get hooked up with your local organizations, have your rep hook you up with other customers and get a tribe that gets what you do and you'll love it even more. And jim.jordan@walsworth.com, send me an email. I will talk you off the ledge if you need it. I'll take a phone call. Want me to look at your pages? That's my passion now is looking at pages, helping kids make them better so that their book really is something special.
All right, now let's segue into our next topic.
I gave that one, yeah. I teed you up there.
When I originally reached out to you, I was looking primarily for a guest to talk about design. We talked about this year photography and writing and storytelling. Haven't had really anybody talking about design.
No. Yep.
Let's take a little subset.
Yeah.
And so I guess two questions, Jim. First off, my observation over decades is design is the hardest part of yearbooking. There are a lot of folks just don't get it or they're not much into it and so on.
Yeah,
Why is
yeah,
design so tough?
yeah,
And to try to get past that, what are some just good design basics to
yeah.
turn maybe an okay yearbook into a,
Oh yeah,
oh, hey, that's really good yearbook?
yeah.
All right, let's
Easy.
talk about
Yeah.
design. Go right ahead.
Number one is people have such a hard time letting go of the old yearbook approach to design. Way back, the old, because really, photography-based yearbooks really are relatively new. You might have some coming in the 40s, maybe a little bit earlier in that, but they were had a few pictures, some text, and that was it. And it really is the late 70s, the early 80s where you see design coming into play. I have a couple of great examples. Pocatello, Idaho, um, has a great set of yearbooks that go back into the 50s and even World War II with great themes and great writing, really trying to tell the story of the year. But I digress. The problem with yearbook design is there was the collage approach to design. Let's get as many photos as you can on a spread. Kind of what many junior high books looked like more recently. But let's get as many, let's don't worry about captions. It's photos, photos, photos. And especially now in the social media world, having a flood, a collage of photos isn't as significant, I don't think. I think the blending of design, photography, and writing are really important. And part of it is it's and I sort of cringe at this term a little bit, the idea of the journalistic yearbook. And I think the journalistic yearbook really dovetails right in with what's happening in design now. And so you have to learn the principles of design once you buy into design. You have to buy into the principles of in-depth coverage if you're going to do modern design. And so you start on this quest is how can we tell the story in a way that the reader wants to look at it? And my big principle of design is as a designer, you are driving the car and you want your audience to go on a journey with you as you look at your spread. So you're not just throwing stuff on the page, you are coming up with an approach that you're going to show them how to read each spread. Okay. That means you're going to have a dominant element. You want to tell them where to look first. Then you're going to include some kind of a catchy designed headline, not just the 36 point like we used to do, multi-deck headlines. Always going to have a subhead. Then you may have a longer set of copy. You might have a couple columns of text. Then one of the things that really changed in the yearbook world was about the year 2000. In the previous 10, 15 years, we might have had a sidebar, is what we called it. Then it became mods. And that really, there was a workshop in about 2000 where the whole mod concept started. And that really happened with InDesign and libraries in design, where you could develop a size of a mod and then be able to have multiples of those and put them around the spread. Okay, so you're taking your reader on this journey. Dominant, headline, writing, then maybe secondary coverage. One's going to have a little bit bigger headline, then it's going to drop in a little bit smaller, maybe a third one a little bit smaller. So you have this sense of hierarchy. And then the big change, the number one change of design in yearbooks in the past 20 years is the inclusion of white space used thoughtfully and with a purpose. You have white space to separate, white space to connect, white space to emphasize, and white space to guide you around the spread. So the difference between old yearbooks and new yearbooks is that they use that white space creatively to guide the reader around the page. And so if you don't have any white space, you really are clinging to a kind of a yearbook that is 30 years, 25 years out of step. So you've got to let go of the old way and think about this new way. Now, what people will call it now, which I kind of cringe at this too, is magazine design. Yes, all yearbook design now is true magazine design. More white space, you're emphasizing different elements. Photography is still king, still probably 65, 70% of the layout. So you got to have great photos, but you're blending and guiding your reader in a process of reading the spread. If you're just looking at it and you don't know what to do, it's not designed. I call it crap slapping. You don't want to be crap slapping. You want to design carefully with your audience in mind. And it's not as hard as you think. Every year, and this is one thing I was super proud of, every year of my 35 years, there was a designer in the room. I had to train them, I had to find them, and some I discovered were amazingly talented people. And so if you don't have a designer there, you're not looking hard enough. But this is another big thing about new advisors. Advisors. You can kind of fake the writing, you can find some good photography, but you have to become a student of great design. And I have, in my room here, I get to have 7,000 yearbooks. You need to go to your rep and say, give me your 5 best books that you think the design is happening, and become a student of what's going on here. And then you're going to find your way as an advisor. You have to be able to coach your designers. You have to say, not good enough. Let's try this. You can get it. You can make this happen. But I think we're stuck in the past with how we used to design. We're not thinking about secondary coverage as much, and we're certainly not using white space effectively. And I didn't throw this in. To train the new designers on use of white space, you have to use a grid. You have to use I used to do columns. In my era, we didn't do horizontal grids. It was all vertical columns. That was fine. But you have to set up your page not on the document grid that's either on your proprietary software from your company or on InDesign. You have to have truly set up columns and margins so that you can control the space in between photos. You can control those rails of white space that allow you to guide your reader around the page. That's really the key.
Jim, if I had $1 for every time I told an advisor or a staff that white space is not the enemy,
no,
I'd be retired in Florida.
No,
okay?
no, that's the thing, is you have to sell them somehow. Your designers have to get that message that white space is it. White space is amazing, and they have to learn how to use it. It's not more is less on a yearbook spread. You can still have 6, 7 pictures on a spread and have them be distributed with your use of white space, less white space between photos, more white space in separating mods and things. But you've got to learn how to use it and not just slap the crap on it.
Ooh, that's an interesting term. All right. I would not have come up with that one. But
We'll get back to our final segment with National Yearbook expert Jim Jordan in just a moment. If you're feeling stuck in a rut right now, or you're thinking you just want to give up being an advisor, stay tuned for the importance of your role and why human connection is so important today. That and more coming up in a moment. It's never too early to start preparing for next year's effort. All right, I know you're still busy with this year. Maybe you're just exhausted from finally finishing this year's book. I get it. But the simple rule here is the more you can do now, the less there is to do later. One idea, if it's available to you, is to attend a spring yearbook workshop done by your company or representative. That's either in person or maybe a virtual event. Doing things like working a new theme, maybe doing a cover session with an artist, reorganizing your group, or just thinking and dreaming about what you'd like to do next year. A spring workshop is a good investment of time and a great place to pick up new ideas. Ask your representative or yearbook company if they are doing any such event near you. And if not, ask them about some virtual version. I've done some of those in the past for schools that, for whatever reason, just can't get away from the building, and it's been a big hit. See if your person can do the same. Now, let's return for one more segment of true yearbook wisdom and tips from longtime expert Jim Jordan here on the Yearbooking Report.
Let's segue again.
Yeah.
So design is important.
Yeah.
Telling stories is important.
Oh,
Jim, I
yeah.
mean, I've been a journalist since
yeah.
actually since I was a senior in high school. It was
Absolutely.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
And all that time, you know, in my time in the field, I'm telling, come on, tell stories. People have, every kid in this building has a story to tell. Tell more of them, not the same kids kind of over and over
Yep.
and over again.
Yep.
All right, Jim, talk about the importance, first, the importance of telling stories.
Yeah.
And there are different ways to tell stories.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Some advice from there, please.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. First of all, that's another mindset thing as far as the modern yearbook goes. When this first day of school starts, or really it starts in the summer, you're on a treasure hunt. What stories are you going to find that need to be told? And you have to look at them. You know, it may be about the kid that came off the bench and helped win the championship in football or basketball. It may be a kid that struggled with some kind of a disease and overcame it. It may be the story of someone who's going through some other kind of a personal challenge. I guarantee you, and I love this, I do this in workshops all the time. If I had 20 minutes with anybody out there, I could find a yearbook story in you about you that would be worthy to be covered in the yearbook. And so you got to get out there and talk to people. The people of New York, the Stanton guy that goes out and interviews people, you got to do that. You got to find the stories. What's going on? And it should be like, whoa, guess what I found today about my principal? I mean, I found out we used to do a big press conference thing to teach some writing skills early on in the year. We brought the AD in, and we found out she'd been adopted, and part of her journey to becoming a college level athlete had to do what she got from that. You know, there are teacher stories like that as well. So it's got to be that treasure hunt. What are we going to find that we didn't know about? What are we going to find that didn't happen last year that needs to be covered in the book? So again, I get excited about the writing. I get excited about the coverage. I get excited about all of it. But here's another new thing about Yearbook. You don't have to have a boring 300-word, 2-column story on every spread. Now, sometimes you might have a 600-word story that needs to be told, but other times it might just be a series of 4 quotes. Another time, like I always remember the time when we didn't have a JV soccer team. You know, who knows what's happening with soccer team. We brought them all in. We did a roundtable. We asked them, you know, what was the most important moment of your season? And a few of them talked about that. Another one we asked, what did you learn from being on JV soccer this year? Another one talked about that. So there are creative storytelling methods now that you can bring in so that every spread is different. And that's another big thing, kind of overlapping with design. I'm a big one on visual variety. Every page, it's like, okay, what am I going to see next? Look, this is all quotes. And look, this one's about trends, and it has large cutout pictures. Here's another 600-word story. I always tell the story about profiles. There was a time when my kids wouldn't do profiles. So we were kind of easing into it, and we did 3 on one spread. One was a guy that played piano. Okay, fine. Another one was a guy that made the soccer team that went to UC Berkeley. But the one that really sold me on profiles was the about the young woman who had burn scars all over her face. Everybody saw her, everybody wanted to know, and we covered her. And she told this amazing story of resilience about how she had been a child and been left in a camper, and there was kerosene and a fire. And she was the most positive, upbeat person. We told her story, and everybody else found out about how great she was. And there are tons of stories like that. And they're all about people. As Bruce Watterson used to say when I first started, you scratch below the surface and find people. And that's really what you're doing. You're covering not the events, but the people who are important on your campus.
Stories are everywhere. Everybody
They're
has
everywhere.
something.
Everybody has.
You mentioned something. You mentioned 20 minutes. In my bunch of years, when I would do workshops, I had a favorite. My favorite experiment. I would bring two kids together who were complete strangers, like from two different schools and so on.
Yeah.
And I would say, okay, your job is to find some story about the other kid. And it would be
Yeah.
like this person would talk to this person first. Jim, I gave them 4 minutes.
Yeah.
You
Oh
got
yeah.
4 minutes to find
Yeah.
some story. And in all the years I did that, which was a lot, at the end, I would say, okay, did anybody kind of strike out? You just couldn't get anything. Not one person put
Not
up
one.
a hand.
Nope. Nope.
Not one.
Nope. Not
So
one.
the stories are out there. You got to find them. You got to tell them. That's it.
And that's exciting. And the other thing is you've got to tell those stories. I went back, I just had my 50th high school reunion a couple years ago. And when I was a senior, we used to have 6 periods a day. But when I was a senior, we had 5. And I went back and looked at our yearbook, and it told the story in the yearbook, this is back in the 70s, of a bond issue that failed in my community and the effect that had on all of us our senior year. And that the only place that was told, I mean, I suppose you could go look through old newspapers in your high school or in your community, but the yearbook told the story of why we were in the situation we were my senior year. And I was thankful to the kids that did that research. So there are those stories that need to be told. You just got to go find them. And we always say this is the old saw, pictures are for now, the writing is for 20 years. And I guarantee you, when you go back, you crave the words, you crave the quotes of what it was like to be a teenager in 2026 or 1973 or whenever you happen to be, because the book is a time capsule. It's a cool time capsule. And so much is going on in our world now. I mean, just think about it. You need to get that in there. You need to cover it. Times are changing so rapidly. You go back and look when we used to cover what hardware and software kids were using, what games they were playing, what they were wearing. It's amazing. And I love pulling out those ones where, we did Susan Massey had one from the 90s where there were 6 kids and they were all standing up and they were full cutouts. And I can go, what decade are these people from? And the kids now will go 90s. And it's just a time capsule of cool stuff. So, again, you've got to get excited about these different parts of yearbook. It makes it fun.
Folks, when I was in high school, I had a lot more hair. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I had
Tell me about it.
I had big hair when I
Oh
was
yeah.
in
I
school.
wish.
I mean, when I look at high school photos, I like, oh my, I'm doing one of these, It's like, oh my gosh, yes. Great. Time capsule. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, final subject.
Yeah.
I think this is a question I've asked every guest I've spoken to this year with this
Yeah.
series. And it's all about AI, artificial
Oh yeah.
intelligence.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's here, it's growing, it's not going away, it's affecting
Yep.
all kinds of different things across society and so on
Yep.
and so forth. I guess, Jim, first off, there are ways to use AI
absolutely.
today for
Absolutely.
yearbooking something.
Yeah.
All right. What
Yeah.
are things maybe that you have come across? And again, you can give away whatever secrets you want to give away.
Yeah.
I'm assuming companies are looking and doing things somehow with AI. They have to be
Oh yeah.
in the
Oh yeah.
scenes or something like that. What about
Yeah.
AI in your book right now? Go ahead.
I think AI can be a great tool in the organizational realm, helping you, track your progress, looking at as kind of a teaching tool. But here's the dividing point for me in AI. Is Yearbook about just creating a set of double page spreads that tell you something about your school year? If it's just about that, if we're not there already, I think if you were a prompt magician and you fed all the right information into your AI platform, we're going to be very close to it can spit out some crazy, amazing looking spreads. So if it's all about creating something that's perfect, I think that can happen. But this is where I make a big difference. Is it about creating the book or is it about developing students? Is it is the creation of a yearbook really about the kids that make it as much as it's about the product that comes out? I have no interest in making it so easy that kids don't have to do anything. And we're going to get there. That's when it's all going to go clubs and yearbook companies are going to struggle. I want to champion yearbook as a method to grow and develop kids with skills that are going to help them in whatever they do. I mean, I can talk about my former yearbook kids that are doctors, lawyers, CEOs, written books, everything that are great leaders. That didn't come from making the process easier. It came from the hard work of working together as people, learning a set of skills, as I said, hard skills and soft skills that really make it a valuable experience. And so the part of AI where it just makes the process, well, literally saps the life out of the process of creation, that's what I worry most about. So um, you got to keep the kids involved, and we want to see it as a vehicle for kids to learn and grow. To me, as I've done it more, like I alluded to it early on in my career, I made the mistake of thinking the book was the end result that was most important. The most important part is the kid that comes out of the program and has skills that are amazing beyond belief when you really find out what they've learned and what they went through in the process. So that's what scares me about AI. I'm a champion of kids and growing them and making them be better than when they stepped in my room.
Go humans.
I know. No, and I think we're going to see at some point there's going to be a human renaissance where we're going to begin to do a design. We're going to be a dividing point between what it can help and then how it can help kids be more creative and help championing who they are than just about getting the yearbook. It can't be just about getting the yearbook done. Otherwise, then everything's going to fall apart.
I think it,
Nobody will care about the AI created yearbook without that human touch to it.
I think we're starting to see it, Jim,
Yeah,
in
I do
different,
too. And
just,
we have to keep going to bat about that.
I mean,
Um,
we all have gadgets, or here they are.
no,
If I need help for something, I get on here maybe and I get a bot. And I think a ton of people now, it's like, can I have a human,
no,
please?
right,
And
no,
we want to
right.
talk to a person.
No, you can't write a good caption unless you're there talking to people. You can come up with a caption that fills a space, but you've missed that human connection element. And I'm old school and I'm I'm going to be championing that because that was the yearbook experience in my advising career is growing better human beings. And every one of them, I have one student who is a MacArthur award winner. He made, got it $500,000 for being so innovative. He was an immunologist. And I said, Joe, what about Yearbook? Did that help you? He said, yeah, I'm writing proposals. I design them. I can communicate with words. I can communicate with graphics. And that was part of his Yearbook experience. My daughter, I have to brag on my daughter a little bit. She was the class of 2009, went to UCLA. Now she's a lawyer. And this was funny. Some of your design skills, PowerPoint skills, lawyers use those still, but her leadership skills, dealing with people that were not like her, she got that in Yearbook, or at least that got her started that in Yearbook. So we are developing. We used to call them back in the day, 21st century skills in the Yearbook classroom. So let's keep championing those human skills.
We have a lot in common, Jim. I've got a daughter I have a daughter who's a 2009 high school grad, was a two-time all-state music selection in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
She is now a choral director at what I would say is one of the top public high schools in this state.
Nice.
And there's a lot of stories that went from
there
to there.
Right. No, we build well-rounded human beings in the Yearbook classroom because they have to deal with people that are not like them. They have to deal with people that let them down. They have to deal with reluctant learners and, all that kind of stuff. And they have to be led to create this beautiful volume, that will last a lifetime. And this is my thing I always say in Yearbooks, Yearbook kids, bright, talented, creative students working together as a team through contemporary design, great writing and reporting and photography to create something beautiful. And that's really important to me, that the book has to be beautiful, that will last a lifetime. That's what Yearbook kids are.
Jim, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I am so glad I reached you. This has been great. Not sure how I'm going to edit this, but I'll figure out a way. All right.
I know. I can talk about Yearbook. And that was, that's the other hard thing now. Everything now we're doing online is short. Yeah. 20 minutes is what everybody wants. They don't want, when I first started doing podcasts, man, I had to fill a full hour. And now they want 20 minutes. So just a little commercial. Yearbook Chat with Jim was my old podcast. We currently have a podcast called That Yearbook Podcast with those Yearbook people. And I just started a series on my Instagram page called Layout Lessons with Jim, where I look at a great yearbook spread and kind of walk you through what's going on there that makes it great. Yearbook design is accessible. You just have to give in to multiple ways of coverage, visual variety, and white space. Don't be afraid.
Not the enemy, okay?
No.
Not the enemy. Well, Jim, we did an hour, so this is great. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today.
It's just, what a joy. I love your radio voice, and I love people that get the true joy and really glory of being part of creating these memory books that last a lifetime. So thanks for all you do to champion all of this, and send out more information to advisors to hopefully encourage them to keep on keeping on.
A big thank you again to Jim Jordan from Walsworth Yearbooks for sharing his expertise on topics affecting advisors today. If you're a Walsworth customer, tell you what, take advantage of Jim's 40 plus years in the business. That's both in school and in the business end. He is one of the best. And remember our suggestion about attending a spring workshop. If one is available near you, it is time well spent. And hey, you get out of school for a day. Nothing better than that, right? Thanks again for listening to the Yearbooking Report podcast. I'm Scott Geezy. We'll see you next time.